Okay, let's start then. Just an FYI, this breakout room is being recorded, and we'll be putting it up afterwards on, I believe, the Hash website. It'll be up somewhere afterwards. You can email if you have questions about that. Okay, welcome to the engineering breakout room. We're excited to have such a great panel of young professionals here today with us. Here we will be discussing a variety of engineering-based topics. Please send any questions you have over in the chat, or if you want, since it's a bit of a smaller group here, you can even turn your camera on or your mic on and just ask them directly. We'll be sure to bring any questions in the chat over to the speakers. Speaking of which, we have 4 lovely people here with us today. Panelists, if you want to give a little introduction about yourselves. Bethany, if you want to start.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bethany. I work at Hatch along with Emily, who gave a little chat earlier about herself. I'm a hydrotechnical engineer. I deal with large-scale water resource planning and management and dam safety. And I got a degree of civil engineering from the University of Manitoba and then moved to Niagara 5 years ago and have been working here since.
Awesome. Cameron, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Cameron D Pietro. I'm a project manager at the Niagara Region. I've been there just a little over a year now. I grew up in Niagara. I went to school at McMaster for chemical engineering. I was there for 5 years doing multiple co-ops along the way. I moved back to Niagara for one of the co-ops I actually had here in Niagara during my tenure as an undergrad. Started there as a full-time employee, bounced around a couple jobs around Niagara, and now I work for the region in the water and wastewater department.
Awesome. Jade, do you want to go next?
Sure. My name is Jade Anima, and I work with Cameron actually at Niagara Region in water and wastewater engineering. I did my undergrad in Nova Scotia at Dalhousie University and decided to go back to school after that, do my master's in business at Brock, which led me to Niagara. And I had just about 5 years experience in consulting, engineering consulting before joining the region, which is similar to what Emily spoke at the beginning, what Hatch does, consulting to different clients and multiple projects. And yeah, I just started working for the region in the last 7 months in project management.
Nice. And finally, Lauren.
Hello, my name is Lauren Flacco. I'm from Fort Erie, and I went to high school at Lakeshore Catholic. And then I went to university at Western University in London, and then moved back to Fort Erie, and I am currently working for an engineering consultant, Macintosh Perry Consulting Engineers, as a structural EIT in the transportation structures department there, where we work on design of bridges, culverts, and retaining walls.
Nice. Does anyone have any questions they want to start off with? Type them in chat or turn your mic on. Here we go, Katie Crawford. Well, I guess for the general panel, what made you choose engineering over any other field or anything else?
I'll jump in. It's a good question. When you're in high school, one thing I was going through is you have to decide between the maths, the sciences. There's no real course to actually go with engineering or to actually show you what the engineering undergrad will essentially expose to you in your undergrad. Essentially, you're taking the calculuses, the algebras, the biologies, the physics, the chemistries. I can't remember what the other courses in high school, but yes, nothing actually says, here's engineering, here's what you'll learn. Specifically, you have to get your experience and any background from essentially people like us that we're discussing right now. My uncle was a chemical engineer, so I got all my background from him. Again, there's no real way to say what you're going to learn in high school is specifically what you're going to learn in engineering. It's a bit of everything. Now, when I went to Mac, it's a little, or sorry, McMaster, for those of you who don't know what Mac is. First year, they really expose you to everything. They expose you to a little bit of chemical engineering, software engineering, civil engineering. Can't remember the other ones there, but essentially there's 6 or 7 courses a semester, but they're all different. Based on that, you can choose your profession after that and whatever you want to go into, whether it's chemical, civil, etc. That's one thing I really liked about engineering year one. It's not for everyone. That's something I'll say right away. I know different universities have different structures. I know Waterloo, you have to choose right away. So it's a little trickier on that end. But just to answer that question, really, you have to be flexible and know what you're getting yourself into with engineering. It's a struggle, but it's definitely worth it in the end as far as learning the technical acumen that you're going to have once you do graduate. And it's just, there's a plethora of possibilities out there. So to answer the question, engineering is very much an open-ended math and science and technology based course. And I got my choice of doing engineering. Again, it was from a personal experience. So hopefully that was able to answer the question a little bit. Sorry, I'm rambling here.
No, it's fine. You said you had an uncle in engineering. How would you recommend someone to make the bridge between high school, where it's a lot of open-ended science and math, to university, and kind of find, oh, I want to narrow down to engineering?
Tricky question, thanks. One thing that I did that I really enjoyed, I don't know if they still do it or not, especially with COVID and whatnot going on, I did a summer camp at McMaster. It was a week-long camp where they essentially exposed you to everything that you'll see. That was really the be-all, end-all decision that made me decide between engineering, and I actually applied to a few other undergrads in business and science at Waterloo. I got accepted to everything, but that was really the catch-all that made the decision very easy for me. If there is a camp or something like this, what we're going through right now, or something to give you exposure to what you're going to see in undergrad, whether it's going, I don't know, if you take an extra year off and go just to walk around the campus and just to walk through the buildings and just to get an idea, maybe sit in the class if you really want to go that far, that's really to do it. Just go out there and actually see it hands-on rather than just reading in a brochure per se.
I think I'm just going to add on to what Cam said too. I think it's also important to remember, after school, what it's going to look like as a career path. So for myself, my choice to go into engineering was, well, I guess in high school, I looked at engineering or accounting. And for me, I didn't see myself sitting at a desk doing accounting. And I think the other engineers with me on this panel, we all work in the field. So for us, it's not a sitting at a desk every day kind of job. You're out there on the job sites, you're touching the soil, you're feeling, you're seeing everything happen in real time. So for me, I love the hands-on thing. That's why I chose engineering. If that interests anybody else, it's not always like hard math and science, but you actually get to go out, get your feet on the ground and see things in action.
I'd just like to add a little bit to that because you said that you work in the field a lot. I work in the field probably only about 10% of the time for my job, and my job is mostly office-based at this point. But when I do get to go to the field, sometimes I get to go pretty cool places. But I do large-scale flood studies all over the world, and I work in dam safety. And I really like the aspect of like these things are real, like physical things that you can go and see and touch, even if it's not something that I do all the time at my job. It's all parts of engineering have some sort of physical attachment, is what I'm trying to say, which is really a big driver for people choosing engineering. And I just wanted to add to Jade's point that even if you're not in the field all the time, everything that you do in engineering is real and physical, and that's what draws a lot of people.
For Miriam, how different were university studies compared to high school math and sciences? Do you feel that high school had prepared you for learning engineering university?
No.
We're gonna be strictly honest in this because we should be.
Yeah, we should be. I don't want to lie to you guys. What you're doing in high school is fantastic, and it is important that you learn what you're learning in high school. But be prepared for a huge shift when you go to university. I didn't go to university. I didn't go to high school in Niagara. I went to high school somewhere else, and I was able to get lots of AP courses that got me a little bit closer to where I needed to be for university. And it still did not anywhere near prepare me for that first year ass kicking that you get. I'm just gonna say it.
But everybody, so don't be too scared. Every other person sitting across from you, beside you in class, feels the same.
Yeah, like don't. Everyone's in the same boat. But
Hard.
You're probably gonna get that speech if you do go to engineering. God bless you guys for doing it. That you're gonna get the speech from your first professor in math or science or whatever course you're taking, saying, "Look to your left, look to your right. One of you won't be here at the end of the semester." You're probably going to get that, and I agree with Beth. It's definitely a shift and a step up from what you're doing in high school. I believe it's, again, everything's changed now, but you're doing 4 courses a semester in high school. You got to double that in university. I remember the first year I had 8 courses in one semester, 7 in the next. It's, if you have the drive and the motivation to do it, and you should, if you're definitely going to go into this, it's something you have to be ready for. It's doable. It's definitely something that if you put your mind to it, buckle down, study hard,
Ask for help.
ask for help. Make sure that if you're going away, that you have everything ready and all the resources, and whether it's personal or physical attachments, have all your books and textbooks ready and everything. That day one, you hit the ground running. Because I've seen it where people kind of slack and they just say, okay, let's go do Frosh week and welcome week. Sorry, this is proper terminology here. You go to welcome week and you pretty much, they keep that same mentality going into week 1, week 2, week 3 of their undergrad, and they slip. And I've seen people drop out after a couple months, and it's no fault of their own. They just weren't ready. It's just as soon as that first class hits, 8 a.m. on a Monday morning, going to calculus front row at the furthest building in a snowstorm, you have to be ready. So that's the way I would take it. Make sure that what you're doing in high school, you buckle down and do your studies. Make sure you put all the effort in. But once you get to that undergrad step, you got to go one step further.
Yeah, in high school, you're going to create those good habits that go really far in engineering school, like time management. Time management stands out for me. You have, like Cam said, a ton of classes, more than high school. And if you can just, write things down or however you work through that long list of things, prioritize the right things and reach out for help, and you'll be fine.
I just want to add one thing. Definitely going through the program is a significant challenge compared to high school. But I just want to say, don't let it discourage you at all to go into engineering, because when I was in high school, one thing a lot of people said to me is, are you sure you want to do this? It's really, really hard. It's really, really hard. And that kind of motivated me to want to do it more, because everyone was saying, are you sure you're going to make it through? There's a lot of people who drop out, etc. And just basically don't let it discourage you. You can try to prepare. But if you enter it and you have the right mindset, you can get through it, no problem.
And I want to add something really quickly to this as well, because I didn't take a really conventional path to get my degree. I extended my degree a little bit. after a trouble in first year, just as Cameron had described. And I ended up graduating, well, the University of Manitoba has a 5-year engineering program, which is a little bit different than some of the schools in Ontario. And I ended up extending that to 6 years and then included a really large grad project to the end of my degree, which helped me get the job that I have now. So not everyone has to follow the exact 4-year grind everything out as quickly as possible path either. There are lots of options across Canada for degrees that have a slightly different schedule or a schedule that you can tailor.
That's really good advice, because a lot of programs aren't fit for some people, but maybe if you extend them or cater it more to your own learning style, it can work for you. Since there aren't that many questions in the chat, feel free to just keep writing them as we go. But what is the most rewarding aspect of being an engineer, or what is your favorite part about the job?
Ooh, big one, eh?
I can start. Like I was saying earlier, the fact that what we're doing is real, and lots of the stuff that I work on either helps protect the public, or other stuff that I work on has actually been constructed and built. It feels amazing to have something that you imagined on paper having existing in real life and working as you intended it. It's the best kind of creativity to physical existence that there is being an engineer.
That's great, Beth. That's something definitely that you take pride in your work, not just because it's what your boss asks you to do and it's part of your salary and part of your roles and responsibility, but it's real. Once you design that bridge, once you are designing a certain pump or whatnot, essentially you have an obligation to the public, not just to protect them, but at the same time to make sure that what you're giving is an adequate product of what you're being asked. You're all going to see it as soon as you get in there. Is that story, or the story of the bridge in, was it Quebec? Yeah, that was the bridge that failed. And I don't know if you can see it. No, you can't. You get that ring. That reminds you that, again, most things are electronic based now, but wearing that ring day in, day out reminds you that you have an obligation, that what you're doing is not, as Bethany says, not as it's real. And you have a stamp, yep, you have the PU stamp. Yeah, what you're doing is real, and you should take pride in it because it's going to the betterment of not just the area that you live in, but for the project that you're working on. I haven't used that stamp, I think maybe twice.
I've never used my stamp.
Oh, I used it when I worked in a consulting firm, maybe a couple times, but other than that, it's a good memento to keep.
Soon I'll be using it. It just, my project turnover hasn't been quite right for it.
It's worth it for the ring, everyone. You'll see at McMaster, I don't know what Waterloo has, but right in front of the engineering building, there's a makeshift ring. And walking by that every day gave me the drive, like saying, I'm going to get one, I'm going to get one. Push through it. And once you put it on, it makes it that much more satisfying.
I saw a question too about types of engineering. I don't know if any of the students here, want to voice what they're thinking of types of engineering. So I think we all sort of have a different background here. I did environmental engineering. I started in chemical engineering. It wasn't for me. And I switched to environmental for the same reasons I said before. I like to be, on the ground and seeing things and touching the soil. That was what I did for the last 5 years. Whereas maybe a structural engineer is more the bridges and the stereotypical engineers. But I just wanted to see if any of the students wanted to speak up and see what type of engineering you guys wanted to do. Maybe we can help you through that.
Yeah, point you to a program that you might not have thought of.
Yeah, and there's tons of master's programs for specific types of engineering as well. Like geotechnical engineering, I don't believe is undergrad, it's only a master's program.
There's an undergrad program at Queen's that is strictly geotech. And then lots of universities offer it as part of their civil program. Yeah, geological is the geotech degree from Queen's. They call it geological engineering.
Okay. Or do any of the students want to talk about different schools? Because I think all of us schools.
I have a civil degree. What kind of civil? I'm just watching the chat.
Choose the type of engineering you want to go into. I know certain universities make you choose right away. Don't let that deter you. If you choose, like just like Jade said, if you choose chemical and decide it's not for you, you can always shift gears. McMaster is a little different. They give you a little bit of everything in year one. They give you, as I said, civil, chemical, geological, software. That really drove me to go towards chemical. The second choice is civil, and you get to actually apply if you go to Mac. Not to be biased towards Mac, you get to apply for a few specializations, let's call it, after year one. So you can apply to chemical and civil and all the other ones based on what you've enjoyed in year one. So that's why I chose my type. I know different universities have different ways going about doing it.
The University of Manitoba is similar. It has, I mean, obviously kids from Niagara probably aren't going to go there, but lots of schools allow you to do a first year in general and then apply to your department second year. So you don't have to decide if you're going to be a mechanical or electrical or computer engineer even before your second year. You apply to a department after you've completed all your first year courses.
I just saw that question for stoichiometry. I'll just jump in there quick for it. Yes and no. So there's a lot, it's more so based like heat transfer and process control and certain areas around there. There is the chemical base as far as like organic chemistry and dealing with the periodic table and chemical reactions and whatnot, and a lot of lab work. So there is that background, that technical acumen that you have to strive and attain. As far as how much you use it for in your day-to-day job, it's a little different.
I think lots of engineering jobs, you have to understand the science, but not as the application and the day-to-day work isn't necessarily, putting a drip into a flask. It's more behind the scenes than I think lots of people are exposed to in high school.
Yeah, I'm going to speak for Cam and I don't think we're doing stoichiometry anymore in our day-to-day jobs. So it's part of the schooling. You have to understand all the types of engineering and all the aspects of it, but majority of your life you probably won't be looking at those things.
I see a question back here. How did you choose where to go to school? You guys are talking about Manitoba and McMaster. How do you choose between those, and besides just different programs, or if you want to go international or stay local? How do you choose those?
Go see it. Go to the university, walk around, spend a day there, get a feel for what the grounds give to you. Go walk into a class, do a weekend camp like I did. That's what really drove me to go to McMaster. But that's really what helps you decide where to go. If you're not afraid to go away, like I'm in Niagara, McMaster wasn't that far away, so I considered local. But if you want to get out and stay in residence and get that experience of being independent and doing things your way away from home, you can go by that road as well. But my suggestion is go visit the universities, spend an entire day there and get a real feel of what the place offers and how you feel walking through the grounds.
I think some really important advice that you guys should all get right now if you're thinking about engineering is that in Canada, if you get your degree from a Canadian university, it's much easier for you to practice engineering in Canada afterwards. And you should know that before you think about going to school internationally. If you plan to live and work in Canada as an engineer after you graduate, your best option is a Canadian university, definitely as far as price goes and quality of education and ability to work in Canada after you graduate.
I think also, as much or as important as your friends are right now in high school, don't base the decision off where your friends go to school. Like look at, like Cam said, go to this.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, go to the schools, check them out, look at the if co-op is big for you, look at their co-op opportunities and see what industries or other places they can offer internships or co-ops at, and speak to their guidance counselors. And maybe I think guidance counselors still come into high schools, maybe not with COVID, but do presentations and whatnot. But yeah, don't base it on where your friends are going, or boyfriend or girlfriend. Just, go what feels right for you.
Speaking of sorry, Lauren.
No worries. Just going off of that real quick, as my personal experience on paper, I ended up going to Western University. On paper, when you apply, you rank your universities, and I had Western as number 4 on the list. And as soon as I went to the campus, I was like, okay, this is the spot for me. So just to show on paper, it was definitely a school I kind of just put in the background. But then when I went there and saw what everything was all about, I definitely found that that was the best fit. So along with what everyone else is saying, like visiting the school is a big part.
And if you're not afraid to move away for school, you should definitely check out programs in a wider range than just Ontario, because Ontario has some of the most expensive programs in Canada. You can go to Munn University in St. John's, Newfoundland. It's the cheapest engineering degree you can get, and it's just as good as every other one. I went to the University of Manitoba, which is about half the price of programs in Ontario. Dalhousie. There's tons of universities outside of Ontario that many of you have never heard of and provide just as good of an education at a cheaper price than the Ontario market bears.
Jade, you mentioned co-op. One of the questions was whether any of you found co-op helpful in university, and they gave the example of working with science professors at Brock.
I personally didn't do co-op as part of my undergrad, so I might steer this question to somebody else. But if it's important to you, definitely look for programs schools that have good co-op programs.
I can answer to that one. I did a co-op during the summers. I worked for the town of Fort Erie in their engineering department for 2 summers, and then I actually extended my program to 5 years and did a year-long internship with Macintosh Perry, who I currently work with. So definitely I thought co-ops were useful, because when I don't know why, but for me, when I was in the workplace and then I went back to school, I started to care more about what I was learning about, because I got to see it like actually applied in the real world. So I definitely recommend co-ops. It also helped me get my long-term job because I'm working for the company I did my internship with. But yeah, I think you can even do it, even if your school doesn't offer a co-op program, you can still look for opportunities in the summer. Like your school doesn't have to have a co-op program in order to do a co-op.
Yeah, in my choice to not do co-op, I just saw a question in the chat about extracurricular. I focused a lot on extracurricular and making connections that way, and doing a lot of societies and clubs and a ton of involvement with my degree, like within the city I was living in. And then when I moved back to Ontario, it all transferred, and I was very involved and had a really good network that I was able to get pretty good job out of it. So co-op is definitely great to, again, get in the atmosphere of any company, so you can see how they work, and if you like it. But if it doesn't work out and you don't get a co-op, or if you apply and you don't get into the co-op, it's competitive as well. Look at other extracurriculars to be involved in.
On both of those 2 things, the extracurriculars and the co-ops, because I extended my degree, I ended up doing 4 co-op terms, some with the government of Manitoba and some with a professor. And it was really good experience. I never was in the official co-op program at the University of Manitoba, which gave you a credit on your degree when you finished. So I didn't want to pay the extra $300 a year to get that stamp on my degree when I finished. And as far as extracurriculars go, in university, I did tons of extracurriculars, and in high school, I did as well. It always looks good to show your leadership skills by running committees and being part of different groups. And in university, there's tons of options to join science focused and engineering focused groups. So you can learn a new engineering skill while you're developing your leadership skills, which is exactly what people want when they're looking to hire people out of university. I definitely owe my job to the networking that I did working on extracurricular projects as time allowed during my degree. And I'm not sure how much universities take that into account when they're looking at people applying, which I think is what the question was surrounding. And I'm sorry, I can't answer that. I don't know much about that process.
Have from Katie again, how long did it take you to get hired full-time out of university? And do jobs in engineering typically offer benefits or pensions, etc.?
I'll jump in. Everyone's going to be different with this. It all depends on if you do co-ops, if you do things on your own. I personally just applied for my own co-ops and 4-month terms outside of school when I was done in the summer. I was lucky enough to have a 4-month term, and I was on a major project for designing a potash plant. And then when I finished my final year, they reached out to me saying there's a job waiting for you. So it's all dependent on what networking you do. Essentially what extracurriculars, as everyone's been saying, what you do on top of that. But typically there are not markets, but there are camps usually at the universities within your last year where professional institutions come out and they get an idea of here's the full-time positions we're offering coming out of school. So it gets a bit of an idea of what firms are hiring right out of school. So you're not left in the dark saying, here's your diploma, good luck. That's not what universities are going to try and do to you. They're going to give you every opportunity to see what's out there months in advance to give you an idea of where you should apply. You're going to have interviews while you're in your undergrad, probably doing your exams. So as far as getting hired out of school full-time, it usually is something very quick and something you have to do your due diligence on while you're in your undergrad of your last year. And as far as benefits and pensions, every firm and every company is different. Usually they offer you some sort of benefits for medical and a pension plan. Everyone does it differently, whether it's Manulife or OMERS.
But most engineering jobs include benefits and pension. I've never seen one that hasn't.
Yeah, they all do.
That's the market rate for an engineer includes those things.
I worked for a small consulting firm before. We didn't have a pension option.
Oh, really?
For a small company.
Yeah, I guess I worked for a huge company.
Yeah. And I had a little bit of a different experience as well, because I started my master's right away after my undergrad. So when I did my master's in business, which huge difference in business versus engineering. So I found myself with a lot of extra time, didn't know what to do with it while I was in school. So I actually I knew I couldn't formally apply for a job while I was in my master's because I had classes midday. So I went to a company that I wanted to work for, gave them my resume and said, let me show you what I can do for a few hours a week. I'll work for free and show you what I can do. And then if I can manage the time of school and this job and you respect the work that I do, then sign me on. And that worked for me. Everyone's different. I ended up working there for 5 years. So.
To speak on my experience, when I graduated university, I started working full time right away. I finished my last exam on the Friday, started working full time the following Monday, and that was at the company I did my internship at. But with that being said, to get my internship, it was not a walk in the park. It took a lot of work. I can't even count how many resumes I put out, how many interviews I went on, and ultimately, I ended up getting my job through just networking. And I went to Tim Hortons one night and talked to someone who gave me my future boss's email address, and I contacted him that way. So it is a journey to find a job, but once you get a little bit of experience under your belt, it definitely helps moving forward. But just some advice when you are looking for a co-op or internship or even a job afterwards, um, don't don't be afraid to ask whoever you're talking to about a potential job. It's worth it to network and let people know that you're looking for something.
Yeah, basically just mention to every single person that you meet that you're a young engineer looking for a job. Someone's gonna stick their hand up and say like, "Oh, I know a person who does engineering." It's wild. The job hunt is absolutely ridiculous. While I say that, I had my job here and was moved here before my convocation date, so I missed the whole ceremony back home. I was already working. Technically, before I graduated, they wanted me to start right away. So I was moved immediately after my last exam.
I think just to push the engineering network one more time, when you're in school, after school, working still, it's a pretty tight knit network that, if I don't know, like Bethany, I don't know, I know you now, everyone, you get to know everyone in engineering, and you lean on each other. Consultants and public sector and private sector.
We're all connected. It's very interesting, and yeah, networking is what gets you in the door, and that's the most important step in trying to find a job.
Use LinkedIn. It's a very useful tool to use, especially to get your foot in the door and network, especially in today's day and age.
And people want to help. Don't be afraid. Like Bethany said, reach out. If somebody doesn't have the capacity to help you get a job, they know somebody else who does.
We just like flip each other emails all the time. That's just what we do all day.
From Natalie, what extracurricular activities do you do in high school to help get into university programs? If there's more of an engineering centered extracurricular that you found.
I don't think there are specific engineering, specific skills or extracurriculars, but again, a little bit different because I went to school at a province, so I didn't use the OUAC application. I had to do a written letter about myself, what I do and why the school should accept me. It wasn't on it was on my grades, but it was more about what I do and what I can offer to the school, which I found was great about out of province. And Ontario schools, it's a lot about grades, maybe, in my experience it was. Out of province, you write a lot about your extracurriculars, so you can show that all the different things you're involved in and how you could enhance student life at university.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's changed, but I think from what I can remember, University of Waterloo and University of Toronto you do fill out a form with your extracurriculars. That's all I can remember.
Yeah, I can't remember if most not universities, most high schools require you to do a certain amount of community service. I know my brother, he didn't go into an engineering profession, but he went into a biological profession. So he volunteered at the local hospital. I know the university he went to U of T, just like Lauren mentioned, they look at that It's not a deal breaker as far as making their decisions, but it is a good reference to have that you can start building your resumes on. But generally in Ontario, the most universities go by your grades. They usually give a minimum threshold. I don't know what it is nowadays in order to get accepted into the programs. But as far as extracurriculars, it doesn't hurt to do any activity outside of school that you can. It definitely gets you ready for any extracurriculars that you'll do within your university, whether it's Engineers Without Borders at McMaster or any other committee that you'll be a part of once you go into undergrad, which I highly recommend doing.
For sports, if you played hockey, basketball in high school, or even just casually outside of the school programs, get involved in the, what is it called? Intramurals. Yeah, I played hockey for 4 years in school, and you network again. You network and network and network. You meet people.
Like in university, I did concrete toboggan, which is as ridiculous as it sounds, and was the most fun I think I'll ever have. We go around to a different university somewhere across Canada every year and race other universities in toboggans made out of concrete. It's super dangerous and tons of fun.
Speaking of Cameron, you were saying about volunteer hours. Do companies like Hatch or does the Niagara region have any volunteering opportunities for high school students looking to get maybe a little experience in engineering fields or just that kind of sphere?
Don't know specifically for water wastewater department if they have any volunteering opportunities at the Niagara region. I'm pretty confident public health has volunteering opportunities that just per se get your foot wet. I'm not sure if public works has any as well. I can't really speak to that end as far as transportation, but it doesn't hurt to go check out the Niagara region's website if they do ever offer any. I personally have never seen them, but I'm sorry, I can't really answer that perfectly.
I think in consulting you might have, or private sector, you might have a little bit of a better chance at trying to get volunteer time. I used to have I took around.
I'm not sure. I've never had that question come up before. I don't think we have anything of that sort. Occasionally we get interns in, but our interns are already post-grad normally. Sorry, I wish I could be more helpful.
That's fine. I have from Lily and from one of the questions from the registration, how flexible are engineering degrees? Like Jade and Cameron, Jade, you have like environmental, and Cameron, it says you've got chemical, and you're both working in wastewater. How far is the range with any engineering degree that with jobs?
You want to start with that one?
Yeah, I think, again, I'm not trying to speak for the region, but they're looking for, or a lot of organizations look at their job or the job postings and see what they're looking for. It usually says a PEng or an engineering degree of 4 or 5 options of engineering degrees. Knowing that you again have graduated engineering school, it's a feat in itself to get that done. And then usually environmental, chemical, civil, geotech, they're similar in Cam and I's role. I don't know if you can add anything else, Cam.
Yeah, so I'm kind of a little bit of both. So when I graduated chemical engineering, and then one of my full-time opportunities was from a local chemical plant. So it was directly applied to what I graduated for, and that's what the position asked for. Most applications ask for a specific specification or specific area, like chemical engineering or mechanical. That being said, most firms, from what I've seen, will never say no. If you're a civil engineer and you have the experience in certain co-ops. I had 2 co-ops in a civil firm. They knew I was in chemical, but again, they didn't mind it. It's really based on how you think. It really gets your foot in the door, and again, different firms have different criteria. I know for the region, it wasn't specifically chemical engineering. They just said an engineering degree. Again, different areas have, different ones have different requirements. Yeah, for the region, they knew I was chemical. But when I worked at the chemical plant out in Niagara Falls for a few years, they required someone specifically in mechanical or chemical engineering.
There's tons of overlap, but then there's also drastically specialized people as well. So I have a civil degree, and civil encompasses lots of things like Jade already mentioned. It can encompass environmental and geotechnical and a bunch of other stuff. And I'm very different from a mechanical engineer that deals with moving parts and metal. But in my job, I work with a mechanical engineer every day. So we would both describe our jobs as dam safety engineers, but we have completely different backgrounds. And that's just a fact. Engineering is multidisciplinary, and we all work together on projects to complete a job. So any kind of job that I'm working in will have an electrical, a mechanical, a civil, a water resources engineer, as I am, and we all work together to complete one job. So we all think the same, and it's a very, very interesting field as far as that goes. To complete something, you need a whole bunch of people with a whole bunch of different skill sets, and no two engineers are exactly the same.
Yeah, as much as I didn't like electrical things and that in school and coding and didn't like that. Now in my job, I'm working on projects that have to deal with SCADA and electrical integration. So, it comes back and you reach out to different people in the organization, but I do have to understand that.
I think more generally as well, just comparing engineering to like a science degree. I had a lot of friends who did a science degree, and they pretty much all of them wished they did an engineering degree in the end, because if their master's program didn't work out that they wanted to get into, which they could have got into with an engineering degree, they had something to fall back on, which would still be an area of interest. So just in general, I think it's a pretty flexible degree in that sense as well. Like, you can go into business with an engineering degree. You can do a lot of things. So.
Everyone loves hiring an engineer for any kind of job that happens to come up. You bump to the front of the line, and that might sound, I don't know, a bit like a big statement, but it's true. It's a very well looked upon degree, and it'll open tons of doors for you, even if what you end up doing with the rest of your life isn't engineering.
Bethy is absolutely right. You don't go per se to the front of the line, but they know you've gone through the ringer per se in your undergrad. You've gone through a lot as far as your studies and gone through the toughest courses and pretty much put your best foot forward and tried to essentially get through the toughest course in most likely all of undergrad. I'm not going to speak for the others because there are differences, but most firms will recognize you that you have gone through hell. So they know that your technical acumen is up there.
But don't be scared. Don't be scared of the degree.
No, don't.
If you're thinking of being a doctor as well, like an engineering undergrad, it's good to go into med school. Like, it's highly respected going into med.
True. At the University of Manitoba, you can get a biomedical undergraduate degree and then apply to med school afterwards. You have all of the courses that you need to apply. Don't quote me on that. I have friends who have done it, but you might have to take a couple extra. Please use your university course book to decide which courses you have to take, not some random lady.
All right, well, going back in the chat a little bit, Katie asks, what is the hardest part about getting started in engineering? What are some struggles that you faced in engineering, either during your schooling or post-graduation?
Tests. The amount of testing, and there's a lot of overlap in courses as far as assignments, tests, exams, midterms. There's a special projects. There's a lot of overlap, and you need to be able to time manage yourself. That's definitely something that I learned quite quickly in undergrad, is that same in your everyday life and in your profession, you need to be able to multitask. And that's something that you just don't learn as a project manager, but also as an engineer. They will, with the amount of course that you take and the amount of work that you have to do, there's a lot of time management. And as I said, overlap. That was, I feel, the most difficult part as far as going right from high school into undergrad.
Yeah, I think the hardest part in school was first year, just like we've all said, it's a really drastic change from high school. So if you think around Thanksgiving time, you want to give up, stick it out. It's just really, it's a hard transition. Once you get your study groups together, once you prioritize and figured out how to manage 8, 7, 6, whatever courses at a time, it's fine. You know, people do it every day. We've all done it. It was really hard, but we finished. So don't be too discouraged. I know I had to go see the dean the week before Thanksgiving because I failed all my midterms, my first round, and he invited me to his office to tell me that I was failing. And yeah, you just pick up your socks and realize what I was doing wasn't working. I tried to, be very social and needed to study more. And yeah, never failed. I think I had friends who failed courses, and not to scare you, but if you do fail a course, you're set back almost a full year. It's a full course load. So if you do fail, you should do summer school or take an extra year.
So that depends on which school that you go to, because that did not apply to the school that I went to, where you could redo specific courses. So you would maybe delay your graduation a semester, or you could shuffle your schedule and take an extra course in the summer. So failing a course does not necessarily mean that you are out. So keep that in mind as well. Lots of schools have different kinds of ways of keeping people in. But yes, I've also received a letter from the dean informing me that I was not doing well enough. But that's okay, because you pull your socks up and you finish, because that's the thing that's important.
Yeah, and have a strong support network. I was very lucky. My parents were super supportive, and even though I said I wanted to give up, they said, this is what you wanted to do, you can do it, stronger than you think, and all the kind words, and you get through.
Yeah, having that support system is definitely something you need, whether it's with your personal family and friends, and having a support group at the school and having a study group to work with, because you will get to learn, love, and hate the people that you get to go to school with every day. You're going to be in the slog of it for 5 straight years. So get to know them and feed off each other.
So we just got a time check for approximately 5 minutes left. So if we could quickly address a couple more questions that came up in the chat. One of them was, what does your typical work schedule look like? How many hours or how many days a week do you typically work?
Monday to Friday, 40 hours, typically for everyone.
Yep. Scattered overtime occasionally. Some travel occasionally. But pretty steady.
Yeah, there can be a lot of overtime. You have deadlines and you have to meet those deadlines. In the more of the consulting world, I don't know, maybe Lauren, you can touch on that, but yeah, when deadlines are coming up, you got to put in the hours.
Yeah, typically it's 40 hours a week, and hours are flexible for me, which is nice. I can start at 7 or I can start at 9, and I can finish within reason at whatever time I want. But as long as I'm putting in 40 hours a week, but yeah, if there's deadlines coming up, you definitely have to extend those hours a bit and put in a little overtime. So
there's been some great wisdom here. Like, I feel like I've definitely learned a lot. One last thing, what is there any last big message of advice that you guys want to give to students here that are looking to go into an engineering career? Is there any other, if they're sure they want to do it, is a way to check that if they how to do it, how to just push through the course load in university. Is there any other big advice you have?
I think if you're unsure, if you're on the fence, you should just go for it.
Go for it.
Commit,
Go for it. If
commit
you
to
have
it,
any doubt
try
in your
it. You can
mind.
always fall back to an easier degree.
For sure.
You can always fall back to something easier. Your engineering courses count.
If you're thinking about it, go for it. You'll regret it down the road, and there's a very good feeling once you finish and get that ring.
Okay, I'm just gonna assume most people are back, but just a couple closing comments before everyone heads out. But just from jumping around from room to room and kind of seeing all the conversations that were being had, it seemed like there was a lot of neat things that came up and things that I learned, and I'm sure many of the students learned, and maybe even some of the panelists learned off of each other. I think it's really important that since most of I think all the rooms were recorded, that you go and review the other rooms, because I think that the one thing that is unfortunate is that you don't get to see all the conversations that had went on otherwise, and you are limiting yourself sometimes to like one room, especially like the tech room and the math room. I was very interested in those conversations, and I was just telling Beth and some of the other organizers before everyone jumped back in how I had no idea. Like, I was listening to Stephanie and Andrea say how like they got their degrees / diplomas, and I didn't know that the process even exists. So I highly recommend you go and review them, especially if you're interested in different things, as well as share it with your friends. Maybe they can get some insight as well. But yeah, it seems like an overall pretty awesome event. Again, I want to say thank you to all of our panelists and to our speaker, Adam, if he's still around. But most of all, like, thank you to the organizing team. It was a pleasure to work with every single one of you. From MIAC to iHub, and hopefully we'll be able to collaborate and do similar stuff like this in the future, as well as with the panelists. Hopefully you guys keep in touch with me and keep in touch with each other, because it's good for us even to grow our network here in Niagara. I had no idea that there was as many of us as there are, and so it's exciting to know that we can be a part of each other's lives in a way too. I'm just going to check some of the comments here, see if there's anything I should mention. Yeah, looks good. Yeah, I'm not too sure, Beth, where are we going to put the recordings?
I think that we'll probably have a link, if you can, on the Hatch website, on the MIAC website, and we'll also put a link in the MIAC link tree. So if you just want to follow MIAC at NFMIAC on Instagram, we'll put a link there.
Okay, awesome, perfect. And then yeah, in the chat, there's the link. Perfect. On that note, I guess I'll let everybody go. If no one has anything else to say, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful evening. And it was neat. I was talking to one of the students, Joshua, and he was saying, yeah, it's such a neat event. Hopefully one day, like, I can be a panelist. And it's like, yeah, hopefully you can. And hopefully we can continue to do something like this in the future, where we can all be connected in different ways, and to share with our friends and colleagues, to let them know that we can do stuff like this, and encourage people in the region to seek those opportunities and see those opportunities that exist. So yeah, thank you.